All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty intense.
Okay.
Ukraine's search for some kind of security guarantees
Right.
in the middle of, well, everything that's going on.
Yeah.
What really caught my attention was this proposed minerals deal with the U.S. We've got some excerpts from a news collection.
Okay.
It's called Zelenskyy Agrees to Sign Minerals Deal.
Interesting.
Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling that it's anything but.
Yeah.
What do you think? Could this actually lead to some kind of peace? Or is this just a tiny piece of a much larger puzzle?
It's definitely not simple.
Right.
This situation is a great example of how economics and national security get all tangled up on the world stage.
Exactly. And Zelensky's right in the middle of it all.
He is.
He's agreed in principle to sign this deal,
Uh-huh.
but he's also making it very clear that he expects more
Right.
in terms of security for Ukraine.
Yeah, what I find interesting is how he's walking this tightrope.
Yeah.
He's thanking the U.S. for their support. But at the same time, he's stating very clearly that a ceasefire without actual security guarantees isn't enough.
Right.
He even mentioned having tough dialogue with the U.S.
Yeah, that tough dialogue bit really stood out to me, too.
I know.
It makes me think about the pressure that he's under needing to secure Ukraine's future while also, not alienating powerful allies.
Exactly.
What kind of challenges do you think he's facing in those discussions?
Well, just imagine being in his shoes.
Yeah.
He needs to project strength to Russia.
Right.
But he also needs to convince the U.S. that Ukraine is a reliable partner. Any misstep could have huge consequences.
Absolutely.
This minerals deal might be seen as a concession by Russia.
Yeah.
Or as not doing enough by some in the U.S.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act for sure.
And speaking of delicate situations, that Oval Office meeting between Zelenskyy and Trump, things seemed to go off the rails pretty quickly there.
That meeting was definitely a turning point.
Yeah, it ended abruptly. The press conference was canceled.
Wow.
And the reports suggest some serious clashes over Ukraine's commitment to peace. What do you make of all that?
Well, Trump publicly said that Zelenskyy wasn't ready for peace and even criticized him for what he perceived as disrespect.
Wow.
The fact that the minerals deal wasn't signed then is pretty telling, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It shows just how fragile this whole thing is.
It really does.
And yet Zelenskyy still insists that he wants a just and lasting peace for Ukraine.
Right.
It makes you wonder what his real strategy is here.
He's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have this immense pressure of this ongoing conflict. And on the other hand, he can't just accept any deal that's offered.
Right.
He needs a solution that guarantees Ukraine's security over the long term.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly difficult to achieve.
It's a high-stakes game, for sure.
It really is.
So this Reconstruction Investment Fund, the RIF, seems to be a major part of this minerals deal. It's supposed to help Ukraine rebuild its economy, right?
That's the idea.
Okay.
It's presented as this joint effort with both the U.S. and Ukraine,
Okay.
having ownership and a say in how it's run.
Okay. And Ukraine will be contributing 50% of its future income from natural resources,
Right.
minerals, oil, gas, that sort of thing,
See, that,
to this fund.
yes, but, and this is crucial,
Okay.
the agreement doesn't explicitly guarantee security for Ukraine.
Hold on. So all this talk about the minerals deal leading to security guarantees?
Yeah.
And there's no actual guarantee in the agreement?
It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
While there's no direct guarantee, the agreement does express support for Ukraine's pursuit of such guarantees down the line.
So it's more like a promise to help them get those guarantees rather than an outright guarantee.
Exactly.
That's interesting. What do you think the real intention is behind this? Is it mainly about economics, or is there like a bigger strategic play at work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This has the potential to completely reshape the relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine.
Right.
But it also comes with a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about what this means for both countries.
Right. There are potential benefits and drawbacks for both sides.
Absolutely.
For Ukraine, it's a chance to rebuild and strengthen ties with a powerful ally. But for the U.S., it could mean getting entangled in a conflict with Russia.
Exactly. And that brings us to another layer of complexity.
Okay.
U.S.-Russia relations.
Right.
These recent talks in Istanbul aimed at improving things.
Yeah.
But they didn't directly address the situation in Ukraine.
Yeah, from what I gathered, it was mostly about getting embassy operations back to normal.
Right.
A small step towards diplomacy after so much tension.
Yes, it's a sign that communication is still happening.
Yeah.
But very limited in scope.
Okay.
Lavrov was really focused on the conditions for diplomats. And Putin talked about rebuilding trust.
Yeah.
But nothing concrete on Ukraine itself.
So not a major breakthrough, but at least they're talking, right?
It's something.
There's also been talk of a potential Trump-Putin meeting.
Oh, really?
In the works. Do you think that could lead to something substantial?
Well, it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Rabkov, the Russian deputy foreign minister, has said that preparations are already underway.
Wow.
But the real question is, how much will these talks actually influence the situation in Ukraine?
Right.
Even indirectly. Are we seeing a genuine attempt to de-escalate? Or is this just a distraction while the main conflict continues?
I feel like everything is connected here.
It really does.
You can't look at the U.S.-Ukraine relationship without considering the bigger picture, especially the dynamics between the U.S. and Russia.
Exactly.
This minerals deal, the Oval Office meeting these talks.
Right.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
Every move has the potential to create a ripple effect across the whole geopolitical landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a geopolitical chess game.
Yeah.
And Zelensky's trying to make the best moves that he can for Ukraine. Every decision could have huge repercussions.
Right.
Not just on the country, but on the lives of millions of people.
It's a heavy thought.
It is.
And it makes you realize the pressure that he must be under. Yeah. It's like every agreement, every meeting, every single word he says carries so much weight.
Absolutely.
So given all this, what do you see as the next chapter in this whole saga? What are we looking at going forward?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are so many pieces in motion.
Right.
So many potential outcomes.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to predict with any certainty.
Let's try to break it down a bit.
Okay.
We have this minerals deal on the table.
Right.
But it's not signed yet.
Yeah.
It could offer some economic benefits for Ukraine. But as we talked about, it doesn't come with those explicit security guarantees that Zelenskyy has been pushing for.
That's a major sticking point for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine him signing anything without some concrete assurance from the U.S. on security, especially after that Oval Office meeting.
Right. That whole situation really exposed the cracks in the relationship between Zelenskyy and Trump. Complicated might be an understatement.
To say the least.
Yeah.
That meeting exposed some really deep-seated mistrust between them.
Yeah.
And it's not clear if they can get past that.
Right.
To actually work together effectively.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how that's impacting negotiations.
Oh, absolutely.
Behind closed doors.
For sure.
Then you've got the whole U.S.-Russia dynamic.
Right.
Those talks are happening, but with a very limited focus.
Yeah.
They're not tackling the core issues of the conflict in Ukraine directly.
So the question is, can these talks create the right atmosphere?
Yeah.
Where resolving the bigger conflict becomes more likely.
Right. Could they lead to a decrease in tension?
Possibly.
Could they maybe even pave the way for more serious negotiations
It's possible.
on Ukraine's future?
Yeah.
Or is it possible that they're actually a distraction, a way for the U.S. and Russia to put off dealing with the real issues while Ukraine is left hanging?
That's a real concern.
Yeah.
We have to be aware of the potential for these talks to just become a sideshow that draws attention away from the urgent need for a solution in Ukraine.
It's easy to get lost in all the moving parts and unknowns.
It is.
It feels like every time you think you have a grasp on this situation, something new pops up.
Right.
But that's why we're having this conversation, right?
Exactly.
To try and make sense of it all.
Yeah.
To connect the dots and see the bigger picture.
And to really engage in that critical thinking.
Right.
Questioning assumptions.
Yeah.
Exploring different viewpoints. There's no simple answer. No magic solution to fix this this complex situation.
It's almost like we're peeling back layers of an onion, and with each layer, we just discover more and more complexity and more challenges.
Absolutely.
But the more we understand, the better prepared we are to navigate this uncertain terrain.
And to appreciate the nuances.
Yeah.
To recognize that there aren't clear-cut good guys and bad guys here.
Right.
Just different players with their own interests and motivations.
Yeah, everyone is playing their hand.
They are.
Trying to achieve their goals within this intricate web of relationships.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that black and white thinking.
It is.
To oversimplify things.
Yeah.
But the reality is much more subtle and much more tangled than that.
And that's exactly why staying informed is so important.
Yeah,
and engaging with diverse sources of information, challenging our own preconceived notions.
Right.
Those are crucial steps.
Absolutely. The more we understand, the more effectively we can advocate for solutions that actually promote peace and security.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to our listener.
Okay.
This isn't just some abstract discussion about geopolitics.
Right.
Real people's lives are being impacted by these decisions.
Well, absolutely.
By the actions of these leaders, by the direction of these negotiations.
We can't lose sight of that human element.
Right.
Behind the headlines and all the political maneuvering. There are real stories of hardship, of resilience, and of hope.
Yeah.
The lives of everyday Ukrainians
are
caught in the crosshairs of this conflict.
So after diving deep into this world of minerals and security guarantees and this high-stakes diplomacy, what can our listener take away from all this? What does it mean for them?
Well, I think a key takeaway is that even in these really intricate and difficult situations, there's always room for agency, for making informed choices, and taking thoughtful action. You don't have to be a world leader or a diplomat to have an impact.
I like that.
Staying informed, raising awareness, advocating for peaceful solutions, those actions can create a ripple effect, even if they seem small at first.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of this interconnected world. And our choices, even the seemingly insignificant ones, can actually contribute to building a more peaceful and just future.
It's empowering to think.
It is.
That we can each play a role, no matter how big or small.
And it all starts with understanding the intricacies, the subtleties of situations like the one we've been exploring.
Exactly. Only then can we move past those simplistic narratives. And work towards meaningful solutions.
Okay, so let's circle back to that initial question we posed. Can a minerals deal really pave the way for peace in Ukraine? After everything we've discussed, what are your thoughts?
It's becoming more and more clear that this minerals deal on its own isn't enough. It's a piece of the puzzle. Maybe an important one. But it can't address the really fundamental security concerns that are fueling this conflict.
So you see it more as a potential stepping stone.
I do.
A way to maybe build some trust and create some momentum toward a more comprehensive solution.
Exactly. And that solution needs to address Ukraine's security needs. In a way that works for all the parties involved, including Russia.
Which is a tall order.
It is.
To say the least.
Especially given the current state of U.S.-Russia relations. It's a delicate balancing act. No question about it.
For sure.
But it's not impossible. I mean, history is full of examples of these seemingly intractable conflicts being resolved through diplomacy and dialogue.
It's happened before.
It has.
And it can happen again.
It can.
But it requires courage.
It does.
Commitment. A willingness to compromise from all sides. And a little bit of luck, maybe.
And perhaps most importantly, it requires recognizing that peace isn't a zero-sum game. It's about finding solutions that benefit everyone involved, that create a more stable and secure future for all.
It's that win-win scenario that everyone's searching for. But it can feel so elusive sometimes.
It can.
Thinking about it all from Zelensky's perspective, it must feel like he's constantly weighing impossible choices.
It must.
Like if you were advising him right now, what would you suggest as his next move? How should he navigate this incredibly complex situation?
That's a tough one.
His
decisions are going to have ripple effects. Not just within Ukraine, but on a global scale. It's a lot of responsibility resting on his shoulders.
As we've been talking about, there are no easy answers, no guarantees. But one thing's for sure. This whole pursuit of peace and security, it's a constant process. It requires our attention, our willingness to stay informed.
Absolutely.
And a sense of hope that things can eventually change for the better.
It's that hope that keeps us going.
It really does.
So our listener, keep digging into these issues. Keep asking those tough questions and looking for different perspectives. In a world where the stakes are this high, staying informed and engaged isn't just a choice. It's absolutely crucial.
Couldn't agree more. And with that, we'll leave you to ponder all these complex issues. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Yeah, keep learning.